Venezuela, Latin American leaders recall the validity of the ideas of Commander Hugo Chavez 10 years after his physical disappearance. In Indonesia, a landslide has by torrential rains killed at least 11 people and left thousands of others missing in Natuna, Ringgil Island. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announces cabinet reshuffle and appoints a new deputy president and electricity minister. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Venezuela, Latin American leaders recall the validity of the ideas of Commander Hugo Chavez 10 years after his physical disappearance. Several Latin American leaders highlight the work of Commander Hugo Chavez and his legacy at the closing of the World Meeting for the Validity of Chavez's Bolivarian Thoughts. This event was held at the Teresa Carreño Theater and headed by the President Nicolás Maduro. Among the leaders who went to the ceremony were the former presidents of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, and Bolivia, Evo Morales, as well as the former president of Honduras, Manuel Zelaya. In their speeches, they emphasized that the revolutionary leader's ideas and legacy remains valid and alive 10 years after he died. The meeting, which began on Friday and rolled out until Sunday, brought together more than 100 intellectuals from 60 countries and all continents. Like 10 years ago, teleSUR assumes the responsibility of telling the world the tribute of his people and the world to an exceptional man. From Caracas, our correspondent Rolando Segura tells us this story.
Once again, teleSUR tells the story from the epicenter of the events. The focus of the news is once again on the tribute of Venezuela and the world to a man, a commander, a statesman.
For us, Chavez is a beautiful legacy. A legacy of love, of kindness, of fraternity. He taught us to love our homeland.
The goal now is to report as it was 10 years ago.
From this place, the Vice President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, announced to his people and to the world that Hugo Chavez had died, that the physical body of Hugo Chavez had left the battle against the cancer he was diagnosed with almost 2 years ago.
The chronicle of those hours after Hugo Chavez's death was meant to show respect.
I could see the faces and the eyes of hundreds of Venezuelans that in the first moment when they announced that their leader had died, they cried, looked to the sky, and surely prayed to God for life, to their leaders and their compatriots, so that stability and tranquility will be maintained. Also in honor of that flag and its people waiting for it to be tied in half, must continue reporting. Because the image says that these people are living, what this country is living. It's a moment of immense mourning and immense pain.
10 years have passed and the Chavismo survives Chavez. His followers resist encapsulating him in nostalgia.
There is no way to talk about you in the past tense, Commander. There is no past tense next to your name. You have been in every minute of the heroic resistance. When after your death a single popular cry resounded in the homeland, it was the cry that echoed through the jungles, the mountains, the coasts, the savannas.
Beyond the tributes, Commander Chavez continues to summon fighters, intellectuals, and leaders from more than 60 countries. From Bolivia came President Luis Arce. who considers the leader of the Bolivarian Revolution as a continental unifier since the late 90s, when the story of the so-called end of history proclaimed neoliberalism as the last possible world.
It is the year 99, in which Comrade Commander Chavez wins the elections here in Venezuela, proposes a constituent assembly, and totally changed the way of carrying out a policy. Therefore, for us socialists, the commander has always been the hope that arises at the right moment.
Facing the future, progressive forces gathered in Caracas proposed permanent reflection and action on the Bolivarian thought of Hugo Chavez.
Rolando Segura, teleSUR, Caracas.
The government of Colombia and the communities of Los Pozos in the department of Caquetá agreed on a roadmap for the end of the protests. The document candidates the parties for approving social conditions in the region and the new confrontations with the oil company Landslide Energy. Among the points highlighted in the text, there is a creation of a mixed human rights commission that will be responsible for the analysis and monitoring of the current cases against campesinos and social organizations in the area. The Chilean Commission of Experts in charge of the preliminary draft of the Constitution has elected its board of directors on Monday. Veronica Undurraga from the Partido por la Democracia and who belongs to one of the two government coalitions was elected president. The vice presidency was held by Sebastián Soto from the opposition right-wing Evelyn Party. With the 24 members commission will have 3 months to present a draft to the Constitutional Council, which will be working on June the 7th. The setup of the commission takes place 6 months after the citizens rejected a previous constitutional proposal intended to replace the one implemented during the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. In Uruguay, the 2023 school year begins with the application of the educational reform promoted by the government and rejected by the teachers' union, which is urging a work stoppage. Some 700,000 children and adolescents in preschool and the primary schools will enter the classroom this Monday, and will be joined by high school and technical schools in a strike manner. Personnel in the capital city decided to join the strike, which could be extended to other zones. And the measure in the protest against the cut in the education budget of close to $150 million. In Peru, relative of 2 dead soldiers and 5 others missing in a river on Sunday are demanding news of their loved ones from the military authorities. The soldiers were reportedly fleeing from a group of anti-government protesters in the southern Indian region of Puno and had been forced to cross the river to avoid a bridge taken over by the demonstrators. The Ministry of Defense said soldiers were trying to provide support to the military actions in Puno and had been forced by the radical to abandon the ship. However, the survivor soldiers and rescuers said that they were forced to go on a boat by their superiors. Let's take a very short break now, but remember you can now follow us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. On Monday, the Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu inspected during a working visit to Donbass facilities built by Russian military, particularly in the city of Mariupol. The officer's visit to Mariupol comes as Russian forces approach Yamar, a city in eastern Ukraine that has become the scene of longest-running battle in the conflict between the two countries. According to the institutions, Gun turned the port city to oversee the construction efforts and, in this regard, visit a medical center built by the military, a dispatch center of the Ministry of Emergency Situation, as well as a newly built neighborhood with thousands of faces toward a residential building. At the beginning of last year, Russia launched a special military operation against Ukraine to defend the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republic from Kiev aggressions. In Indonesia, a landslide caused by torrential rains on Monday killed at least 11 people and left dozens of others missing in Tuna Province Island. National Disaster Mitigation Agency spokesperson Abdul Mahari said tons of mud fell from the surrounding hills into houses in the island's Seversan village. Rescuers have recovered so far at least 11 bodies, and authorities fear that the death toll will rise. The head of the emergency relief operation said thousands of soldiers, police, and volunteers have joined the search, and that down communication lines and bad weather were from them for the rescue efforts. Local media in Bangladesh report more than 2,000 shelters were destroyed and nearly 12,000 people affected by the major fire in the Cox's Bazar Rayan refugee camp. Representative of the United Nations Refugee Agency in Bangladesh said the fire originated in Camp 11 in Kutubalong, one of the largest refugee settlements in the world, but was brought under control within hours without causing fatalities. Refugee Commissioner Mahnun Abraham said the incident destroyed or damaged 2,000 shelters, 90 hospitals and educational facilities, and 35 mosques, leaving more than 12 million refugees without their belongings.
A massive fire has broken out here, and it's spreading quickly due to the wind. We have somehow saved our lives by crossing the barbed wire fences.
I don't know how the fire started. Poultry's houses and clothes have been burnt. I couldn't take anything out of the house. I just looked for shelter to save my children.
teleSUR English continues to grow. You can tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and you're our Latin American alternative broadcast. So one financial break and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced a renewal of his cabinet and appointed a new vice president. In a televised speech, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announces the creation of 2 new ministries as a part of his cabinet reshuffle. One will be responsible for dealing with the power of the crisis, and the other for paying greater attention to the government performances. He also announces the appointment of Paul Machadli as vice president of the Republic of South Africa. The new ministers will focus exclusively on dealing with the crumbling power cut. South Africa's state-owned where the utility Eskom has been implementing rolling power cuts across the country for years, but 2022 was worse than 2023. It's begun with even longer outages and no solutions inside.
The appointed minister will have political responsibility, authority and control over all critical aspects of the Energy Action Plan. This will help to deal with the challenge of fragmentation of responsibility across various departments and ministers. This work will result in the reduction of the number of ministries and it will inform the configuration of government going into the next administration.
Nigeria's opposition leader, Atiku Abubakar, who came second in February 25th presidentials, took to the streets on Monday along with his supporters to contest the election's results. Abubakar's supporters and members of his People's Democratic Party dressed in black to march to the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Abuja and filed a petition alleging electoral fraud. The Commission has acknowledged that there were technical difficulties on polling day, but rejected the allegations of fraud. But the Robid and the Labour Party, which came third in the election, has also rejected the results and said he will go to court to prove the Nigerians that he won the presidential elections. With 93.4 million registered voters, the turnout was just over 27%, even lower than in the 2019 elections.
So our candidate won, and is a fair and peaceful man. That is why we said, let's come to INEC peacefully. Let's tell them that this is what we want. This is what Nigerians want. Since they declared the other man president, the whole country has been in mourning. So you should know that they robbed us, they raped us, and we want it back. Atiku should be given back his mandate.
We are here to remind INEC chairman, Mahmoud Yakubu, that he promised Nigerians during the collation of results that he will review the collation. And to this moment, as you and I are standing here and talking now, he has not done the review of that collation. So we are asking him to review the collation.
The Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, FAO, warned that close to 5 million people are still actively food insecure in Somalia. The director of the FAO office, Rain Paulsen, said that the prolonged crisis has exhausted the coping mechanisms of the country's most vulnerable population. According to the United Nations, in Somalia, there are cases of Indians, displacement, child malnutrition, and other occurrences affecting thousands of families. The entity also predicted that the number of people suffering from aggravated food insecurity will rise to 6.5 million between April and June of this year, which represents more than a third of the country's total society. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English, I'm from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.